Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 21st of August, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar sinking lower the last few days. So we are just seeing the dollar coming off on the short-term charts. We do still have upside targets, though, on the point and figure 60-minute chart, and the trend is up. We're seeing quite interesting transition on the medium and long-term charts, though. But at the moment, we're still struggling a little bit with resistance here, but the dollar looking strong on that medium-term chart and just really pulling back over the last few days. Euro, we're seeing some strength here in the short term, but medium term weakness, maybe finding some support in the long term. So just seeing a little bit of recovery there. Japanese yen, the dollar sinking lower here as well. Still bullish medium term. The long term chart potentially in transmission. So interesting to see there as well. Taking a look at sterling. Sterling much stronger against the dollar on that weaker dollar the last few days. No clear upside targets though, and we do still have long-term downside targets hanging over us. Looking at sterling against the euro, we're weaker here. And against the Swiss franc, sterling is looking a little bit better, but still medium term and short term bearish as well. That's against the Swiss franc. Taking a look at the Aussie dollar, we see here sterling also lower in the mid 170s. Bitcoin sitting at $6,400, so just really quite flat over the last week or so, which is unusual for Bitcoin, but still medium term and long term bearish. Taking a look at the US stock market last night, we saw the S&P 500 index was slightly up. The Nasdaq also was slightly up as well, up about 0.2%, but still bearish in the short-term chart. The Dow was up about 0.25%, and the broader-based Russell index is still looking a little bit better. Very little change, but still bullish on the short-term chart versus the other indices. The futures this morning, the S&P future barely changed in bullish mode though, and the Nasdaq E-mini is also little changed, so a bit hard to call which way the US market will open. The UK market is still bearish below the cloud on the short-term chart, and looking very flat over the last few months, really, when you look at the medium-term chart here, just sitting around that $7,500 point level. UK mid-cap still bearish below the cloud, and the medium-term chart just sinking lower, so UK stocks not looking great. German market, the DAX is lower as well. The CAC Quarante is also bearish below the cloud and down slightly this morning. And in Japan, we saw the Japanese index still bearish medium and short term. The Hong Kong Hang Seng Index was up slightly, but still bearish on the clouds, so still a worry. And looking at the Chinese market, China was actually up yesterday, but still bearish on all three time frames. The Indian market, the Sensex, is looking still bullish on all three time frames. A very different picture there from China, and the Australian index fell quite sharply yesterday, so we are just seeing that down about 1%. Looking at Brent crude, we're sitting at $72, just starting to re-enter short-term bullish territory. Some resistance here on the short-term chart, and medium-term we're bearish. WTI, taking a look at the picture there, we're seeing here we bullish above the cloud. US natgas nudging the $3 mark, sitting at 298. So bullish, medium, and short term. We do have a target of 310, 303, and 317. So it does look like US natgas could break higher. Looking at gold, gold actually still in short-term bullish mode after yesterday's the transition last weekend really, and we're seeing here 1205 is the target. Looking at the very short-term chart, if we go to the 0.5% chart, there are quite a few upside targets here now being met and reached. 1200 is the key. Can gold get back through that 1200 level? Only $6 to go. The weaker dollar, of course, helping there. Silver, not a stronger recovery as gold, but also just short-term bullish. US 10-year yield sitting at 2.83%. And just taking a look at the tech giants, we see here that Apple looking very strong, still holding on to all three time frames as bullish, with quite a few upside targets. Amazon has been a star performer this year, up another nearly 0.5% yesterday, still looking bullish above the clouds. Google or Alphabet. Looking also bearish on that short-term chart, so just not looking quite the same. And Facebook a little bit worrying as we nudge to these 170, low 170 levels, potentially making new lows here. Below 170 would be bad for Facebook. Microsoft sitting at 107, just can't get hold of that 110 level, so we're sinking lower there on the short-term chart. Netflix was up quite sharply yesterday, having had a bad few weeks after their warning. Interestingly, the medium-term chart is starting to break through, and Tesla also just looking down another 4% yesterday. So Tesla's starting to look quite worrying on the charts. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.